Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now today's first story comes from Distraught Brother, who says, my best friend is cheating on his wife. They start. I don't know if this is the right thread to post this, but I need help. My best friend 33 male and I 32 male have been inseparable since we were 5. We went to school together, did most of life's major milestones together, and I consider him my brother in all but blood. When his grandmother passed while we were in high school, she even had me in her will, leaving me a small trust to use for college. For as long as I can remember, his family has been mine and vice versa. We both got married in 2017. Our wives are very close and have been since we were dating. While I'm not as close with her as my wife, I see his wife like my sister and I care about her the same way. 3 days ago, I was riding in my best friend's car when he asked me to put on some music. I picked up his phone and put in this code. We both know each other's passcodes for years, and while I was navigating Spotify, a text came through from a pizza place that said, coming over tonight. I sat there stunned for a few seconds before turning and asking him who the fuck pizza place was. And he immediately started yelling at me for going through his messages before I told him what happened. He pulled over into a parking lot and spent a few minutes yelling at each other until he finally came clean. He's been hooking up with a co-worker for about a month. He says that he still loves his wife and has no intentions of leaving her. He begged me not to tell his wife and that he's going to find a way to break it off with this other woman, but he says he's in too deep to just ghost her and doesn't know how to cut it off yet. He swears it will never happen again and that his mistake doesn't warrant ruining his and his wife's marriage. After some back and forth, I reluctantly agreed to stay quiet, but later that day, I remembered something that might change my mind. He and his wife started the process of IVF a few months ago. I haven't pressed for details, but she has used my wife as support through the process, and I know it has been very taxing on her. Ultimately, my dilemma is this. Is it right for me to keep this a secret, knowing that they've been trying to bring a child into the world, and knowing that the child could be born into a broken home if wife finds out after she gets pregnant? I'm torn between the friend that I love like my brother, and what I feel would be the right thing to do. I know I'm not the one who was wronged here, but I feel so betrayed and angry. I feel like he's done something that's going to tear apart the small family the 4 of us have built together, and the bigger one we planned on having one day. I know he's not a bad person, and up to this point I'm pretty sure he's been a model husband. I'm so unsure what to do. I need help. Edit. Thank you for all your replies and advice. I talked to my wife last night and she's asked friend's wife to come over tomorrow night to talk. I'll update with more details afterwards. Jen says, unfortunately, no matter what you do, this is going to blow up in your face. If you don't tell her and it comes out you knew, your wife will blame you. If you tell her, he might not talk to you again. The kicker is she's actively trying to get pregnant with IVF, which is emotionally draining for a woman. As a woman, if I found out my spouse was cheating, I wouldn't want to have his baby. I feel like you have to tell her. Audacia says, put your marriage first. Think of steps you'd have to take to pretend you didn't know. You're already considering lying to 2 people and letting a third get born. The moment your wife knows, she's going to replay every second of your relationship. We always wonder what the best friend knew, and no amount of righteous anger on your part is going to excuse covering for a cheater. You keeping the secret will reframe everything, permanently. You will never undo that damage, and if you let a baby get conceived before the wife knows, well, that damage is going to be nuclear. Tell the truth and do it fast. Maybe a brother to you, but the other side of that coin is he lies to you and betrays you like anyone else, and probably has an easier time if it's due to the length of your bond. There's the truth, or permanently damaging and possibly ending your own marriage. That's the choice. iFly quotes OP and says he's not a bad person, then says he's cheating on his wife who's trying to bear his kid, and now he's conned you into being a part of the lie. If you go along with it, you're an enabler. You're covering for him. You're a party to the lie. And good luck when your spouse finds out you knew all along. One final comment from Glass Intention, who says, Jesus, that sounds like a horrific situation you're in. I will tell you this now. The wife will find out at some point. She will then find out you knew. She will tell your wife you knew and kept it quiet. Your wife will be completely blindsided by your lying. She will question your morals and what you are willing to lie about in your relationship. Your friend is a shitty person. His responses are frankly pathetic. He needs time to break it off. Please, he's no intention of doing so. They're going through IVF. Jesus H. Christ, he's a piece of shit. If it was me, considering the fallout for not only his marriage, but your marriage, he has to come clean here. I would call him and say you're not keeping this from your wife. You do not want to destroy your marriage by lying to keep his secret. I would give him 24 hours to come clean. If not, you will tell her. She doesn't deserve this. A potential child doesn't need this, but most importantly, you and your wife do not need this. There will be a fallout from him, no doubt about it, but he made the decision to have an affair. This isn't some drunken one-night stand. Not that I agree or am minimalizing that. This is a full-on physical and emotional affair. He works with this woman. He's continuing to work with her. He doesn't want to ghost her, dude. He's having his cake and eating it. I always feel that the truth will come out at some point, and what are the people around you that you've hid it from, what are they going to think of you? And there's the very possibility of ruining your own marriage at the same time. Especially with the IVF stuff going on at the same time, it's just all heartbreaking. But you're also talking about him being your best friend, and think about the position he's put you in right now, what he's asking you to do. But in OP's edit, we already knew that he's spoken to his wife and they invited the other wife across. So OP's update comes in and says, first off, thank you everyone for your advice. I think I was still kind of in a mode of shock and panic, and reading your comments helped me sober up. I appreciate you all. I'd also like to quickly address those of you who suggested burying it because I have no ties to this woman, or he's your friend not her, or bros before hoes. This isn't some random girl he just started hanging out with. They've been married for 7 years and were dating for 2 before that. She's been a big part of our lives for nearly a decade and is my friend in her own right, even if she doesn't share the same history me or her husband do. So the idea that I have no ties to her or owe her nothing is just wrong. The evening after I posted this, I told my wife. You all were right that I shouldn't have kept it from her in the first place. She listened to what happened and then sat silent for a minute. I was afraid she was going to be mad at me for not telling her like a lot of you said. But no. She said that a part of her was relieved because she could tell something had been severely bothering me these past couple of days. But aside from offering the occasional, "Are you okay?" she decided that I would tell her when I was ready to share. Though when I told her about the thread, she was slightly annoyed and thought it was silly for me to have brought my problem to a bunch of strangers on the internet before I brought it to her. I apologized for not telling her sooner and for waiting to act despite knowing in my heart what I needed to do. My wonderful, amazing, and astoundingly understanding wife responded with, "Even when we're sure what is right, it's only human to hesitate when we know it's going to cost us dearly." That said, she and I are all good. After our discussion, I showed her the thread. She read comments for nearly an hour before we started talking again. Ultimately, we decided that we had to tell my friend's wife, who I will from here refer to as sister, so I don't keep having to say friend's wife. The reason we did this instead of an ultimatum is my wife was concerned he would use the time to cover his tracks or orchestrate her opinion against us. Neither of us really felt that would be in character for him, but we wouldn't have thought it in character for him to cheat either. My wife texted sister and asked if she could come over after work the next day. Sister works mostly evenings, so she usually gets off around 11. My wife had told her it was a serious conversation, so sister was pretty tense when she arrived at our house. We sat her down and we told her everything. After hearing it, she took a long breath and said, "I've known for a couple of weeks." Apparently, she had asked her boss if she could go home early one night a few weeks ago because she wasn't feeling well, and found he wasn't home. She texted him and asked him what he was up to, and he said he was at home watching TV. She tried to look up his location on their tracking app, but it was turned off. She left home and waited until her shift would normally end to return. He was home when she got there, and when she asked how his evening was or if he did anything interesting, he told her he'd been home all evening watching TV and playing video games. She checked the app again, and sure enough, his his location was turned back on. Sister said that until we told her, she didn't have any proof but felt she knew what must have been happening. We asked her what she was planning to do now that she knew. Here's the part I didn't see coming. She plans to move forward with IVF. According to her, it's always been her lifelong dream to be a mother, and without IVF it will never happen. IVF is expensive. She won't be able to afford it on her own, and she's afraid that if she leaves her husband, she'll never get another chance. Her current plan is to follow through with implantation and decide what will happen to her marriage afterwards. She says they have a healthy embryo and she wants to give her child a chance. Even if it means she could end up raising a child on her own. When I asked if there was any way she could see them reconciling when this is all over, she said it depended on him. In the end, she asked us to please keep it quiet and not to tell him that she knows. We agreed and assured her we'd be there for her if she needed anything. I called my friend the next day and told him that, while I still love him, I need space after learning what he did, and that we wouldn't be seeing each other for a while. I still feel a lot of things. Relief from not bearing the secret, sorrow for sister and what I fear she's going to have to go through, anger at my friend for destroying our family as it has been, if not destroying it entirely, and grief from what feels like the loss of the person who has been with me my whole life. I hope for all three of their sakes they can still work it out, but I know those chances are slim. This whole thing has been exhausting, and while I'm not exactly sure how to move on from it, now I can at least try. Thank you all again for your help. I didn't have any more updates. And a top comment on that update from Grey Blue Girl who says, now she's moving ahead with informed consent. That's the only way. You did the right thing. And that was pretty much the majority of the comments, that she can make her own choices now and you did the right thing. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another story. And our next story is from Complex Slight 6334 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit, and says, am I the arsehole for wanting a say on how my wife spends her inheritance? We've been married for about 4 years and have no children. She'll be receiving a 6-figure inheritance from a late family member. She's making plans to buy a new car, take us on vacation, looking at high-end clothing and purses. She really wants this $10,000 Italian purse, so it'll probably be the first thing she'll buy, and a French bulldog. I'm apprehensive with her plans. We're 3 years into a 25-year mortgage. I told her we should use the majority of her inheritance to pay down that mortgage since that'll save us hundreds of thousands in interest. She still owes about $60,000 in student loans, which I think she should pay off. I think she should splurge a little but invest the remaining in a mutual fund for a rainy day. Her argument is that the mortgage and her student loan payments are scheduled and she/we scheduled them because she/we can comfortably pay those payments. She also argues there's nothing safe about the market. Even with mutual funds, she could lose it all and will never again be able to afford a dream purse. She said she's been driving the same car since college and it's almost 10 years old. Lastly, she said it's her inheritance, and while she'll listen to my suggestions, she gets the final say on how it'll be spent. We've been discussing this and going around in circles for days. While I do understand it's her money, I can't help but think of the hundreds of thousands of dollars we'll be saving in interest. So OP put their first update in the same post and it said, I've been reading your responses and I have to clear up some things. Some of you said that she shouldn't pay off our mortgage because it's her money and I would benefit from it. I make more than she does, so when we bought our house, we decided I should pay 3/4 and she would pay 1/4 for the life of the mortgage. I was willing to pay more for our benefit, so I don't see how it's different from asking her to pay off the mortgage. Some of you said that she should get a new car since hers is almost 10 years old. My car is about the same age and I plan to drive it until it doesn't work anymore. I invest the money I save by not buying a new car and I get a healthy return from that money. Some of you said that legally it's her money and not mine, which is true, but when I get my bonus every year, we spend it together. I know it's legally her money too, but realistically, she's not helping me at work and I earn that money by myself, yet I share it with her. Legality aside, we're partners in life, and I think building a stable financial situation is much more important than vacations, a purse, and a dog. So Mustang says on the back of that, I think not paying off her student loan is the most ridiculous thing. Probably gives her $500 or $600 or more in her pocket. The mortgage may be thinking if something happens you get half the equity. And I don't understand $10K on a purse, but okay with $3 to $4K on golf clubs. Representative Wynn says $500 to $600 a month with a likely 7 to 8% interest rate, which will save about $20K of interest if she had paid it off in 10 years. Which she's probably looking at more like 20 years with such a relaxed attitude. It's really fucking dumb to stay in debt. Alicia says she's clearly been told not to commingle inheritance funds with marital funds. Wise, and responded with lavish spending plans. Unwise. In my opinion, she needs to engage an investment planner to discuss these issues or her playthrough is going to be way off. And that's to everyone's deficit. OP has his own problems though. He made a full plan of execution for money that's legally and ethically 100% not his, and then got surprised when there was pushback. That's all on him. PNCR Mum says, I was all ready to call you out, however spending $10K on a purse and continuing to carry $60K in student loans is just fiscally irresponsible. Paying off the student loans puts more money in your pocket every month and avoids all the compounding interest. Not the arsehole. So around 20 or so days later, Opie updated again and says, I read your comments and talked to my brothers and decided to bring equality into our marriage. I sat down and went through all of our bills and receipts. I was paying 3/4 of our mortgage, 3/4 of the property tax, all of the house's maintenance costs, almost all of the groceries, almost all of anything we bought for the house, all of the utilities including our cell phones, almost all of our activities outside of the house including dinners and dates, and insurance for our cars. I paid for all those things without a second thought before we were partners, and I make so much more than she does. I sat her down last week and showed her the total of our spending and told her that since her financial situation has drastically changed, she is now responsible for half of it. That started arguments like we've never had before. I argued that she can now afford to be financially responsible for half of our lives, though she should be. She responded by reminding me that her inheritance is legally hers alone and not ours, so I can figure that into our cost while our salaries are legally ours, which is why we use them to pay for our living expenses. I argued that while she is legally correct, she's morally wrong, and this is how we're moving ahead, as equals. We haven't spoken to each other since then except for a few texts. We go to bed in silence and leave for work without waking each other up. She's not the woman I thought I married, and it's gotten to the point that I question our future together. I went to see an attorney and found out our state sets limits on alimony based on the length of marriage, if the other spouse is employed, and the separate financial state of the parties. My attorney said that we've been married for only 4 years. She works full time and her recent inheritance. There's an excellent chance I'll have to pay very little alimony for about 3 years, and a good chance I won't have to pay anything at all. The messy part is that we'll have to divide all of the marital assets. I haven't called my attorney back and will spend the week pondering my future. So there were some comments on the back of that one, of course. Trying to be good says, so there's mortgage and bills to pay and your wife's genius idea is vacations and a $10K purse. Can she seriously look at you with a straight face arguing this shit? Dude, get the lawyer, walk away, grab some popcorn and watch the dumpster fire of your wife being broke in 12 months. Another commenter says, this really isn't that complex. She thinks OP's money is ours and her money is hers. OP funds their life and she gets to use her money for toys. Imagine buying a $10K purse while having a mortgage. Pure fucking idiocy. OP, just get a divorce. She's just in this for herself. Zesty Golf says, I have a crystal ball and will look into your future. Your job and salary will still exist for decades. A one-time cash infusion and her spending habits will result in her not having it in a couple of years. It sounds like you never realized how much of the financial burden you were responsible for. Now that you know, you want to go back to pulling that card if you do stay together. Pleasant Discount says, it's not about that. It's about her mentality of what's yours is mine and what's mine is mine. OP was okay with the arrangement until she gave an impression that she's using him at worst and doesn't see him as an equal at best. When she came upon an unexpected windfall, she didn't think to consider him the same way he did for her. Now, I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? Maybe you got a different opinion on the matter. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved in today's stories. Your love, your support, your time always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.